Happy Saturday, Risers. We hope you're having a phenomenal weekend. Saagar and I are back with some of our favorite moments from the week.
First, Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, the president of Repairers of the Breach. He joined us to discuss abolishing the filibuster and raising the minimum wage. He explained why he thinks the filibuster is harmful.
When you look at the history of the filibuster from the 1800s, every piece of anti-slavery legislation was filibustered. Labor laws were filibustered. The attempt to give women the right to vote was filibustered. Unemployment benefits were filibustered. Civil rights legislation was filibustered. The attempt to let 18-year-olds vote was filibustered. There's been no point in this country's history that somebody didn't attempt to use the filibuster to block us moving forward and moving this country forward. It's not just about race. The filibuster has been used to try to hold up racism and classism and elitism. And it's just not what was intended. It makes it so senators don't have to debate in front of the people. All they have to do is say, we have a filibuster, we don't have 60 votes, and we never know where people stand on issues, and that's not democracy.
Yeah, he really makes the argument very well here. And he also, the way he talks about race and class and racial justice, I think is so significant and so important, because so many people want to just lean into the representation piece and just talk about the identity piece. And there's actually a new study in the New York Times showing that the times in which the racial wage gap closed the most was because conditions for all blue-collar and working-class people were being lifted.
What a shock.
So the minimum wage, and he talked about this really explicitly, it's so rarely connected or talked about as a racial justice issue. And it really should be seen that way, because it would benefit everybody, but it would disproportionately benefit Black and brown people who are overwhelmingly, more likely to be in those low-wage jobs. So I just think that he has such a clarity on these issues.
He is one of the few who I truly and deeply respect within that movement, because he just talks with a compassion to poor whites, Blacks, Latinos, anyone in this country. And that just is so missing from contemporary political discourse. Calls it like he sees it, and I will always appreciate what he has to say.
Former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, she joined us to talk about her congressional campaign. She explained how she's been able to gain support from progressives and from the establishment types within the Democratic Party.
You know, Krystal, I've been a coalition builder for a long time, and I know folks see me fiery, and I am that. But I'm a multifaceted person just like anybody else. And usually when I'm called to an issue, it is to fight for something or fight against something. But what people can see in the culmination of my endorsement, whether it's the House of Labor, SEIU, or the Bakers Union, for example, or ATU, Amalgamated Transit Union, and on to all my union sisters and brothers, I have been in the vineyard side by side with these people doing the work. And I am a coalition builder. I build coalitions. Even my work with my Governor John Kasich, who we've jousted many a time. We don't agree on many issues from a policy standpoint, but when it came to do something about policing and show this state a new thing, we were able to work side by side at the Ohio Task Force for Community and Police Relations, as he signed an executive order at my request, talking to the governor about the needs and some of the tragedies that had happened in my city and across the state of Ohio. What that shows is that I'm willing to work with anybody, be they moderate, progressive, or conservative.
She's one of the few that actually cares about getting things done and not just the signaling around it or positioning herself or posturing in the right way, which is why, she really does bring kind of a unique package to the table, and I think is poised to, she's in good position. This is not going to be an easy race for her to win this Democratic primary, but obviously she's been backed by the Bernie and AOC and Ilhan Omar and Cori Bush, like all the progressives have come out for her. But she's also got all these local elected officials, including the mayor of Cleveland, who have backed her campaign as well. I think that's the piece that gets forgotten about Nina on the national level, is that she was a state legislator and really understands that process and has connections locally that have helped her form this coalition.
I think it's important, and that's why people forget she worked with John Kasich and talked with him in order to get stuff done. These are the
parts. Took heat for that too.
A lot of heat, and you know what? I support that. And this is always the problem with absolutist politicians, which is that they are people who you can make a lot of headlines, but you're not actually going to do anything. And it's always funny to me when people are like, "Why doesn't Bernie do anything?" or whatever. I'm like, guys, look. I don't even have to agree with Bernie Sanders. And there are articles from the New York Times calling him like the amendment king.
Right.
It's like, just be honest. Like, this is the thing. He actually was quite effective at moving legislation and adding amendments and working within the Senate coalition system in order to move what he wanted to get done. But people conveniently ignore a lot of those facts. And so the way that progressivism is often looked at, I actually think that she and Bernie Sanders are much more of a different vein of politician than some people who are even within the squad and like to talk a lot.
Agreed.
All right. Finally, senior reporter at ProPublica, Alec McGillis, he explained what effects Amazon union would have, not only on Amazon workers, but on workers across this country.
It would just sort of lift things up kind of across the board. You make such an important point about those industrial jobs. We have to be careful about not idealizing them. They were incredibly treacherous, and in the early 20th century, incredibly low paid, without any say on the job, and just incredibly demanding hours, incredibly demanding productivity expectations. And in a way, we've now kind of come full circle. And we're back to these jobs that have replaced them, these warehouse jobs being very being low paid, incredibly high demands, no say on the job, and so in a way we're on this sort of historical arc. And if we could sort of lift these kind of jobs up through organizing, it would just make an extraordinary difference, because they have become such a big part of the labor market. I mean, they just have. It's hard for us to grasp just how much. Amazon's now the second largest employer in the country after Walmart, and there's just and the growth shows no sign of stopping, because we have just so shifted our habits over to e-commerce.
Yeah.
Such an important point.
This is an incredibly key point to me. And the reason why is because he was talking a little bit about how in the early 20th century, Bethlehem steel was both a symbol of what went wrong and right with America. So we had mass industrialization. We had very low wage, 6-7 day a week jobs. People were paid nothing. Then through a mass union effort and a balance, Bethlehem steel both became an engine of American industrial profitability. And because we had large unionization, it became the engine of middle-class growth. So what you can see here is, look, Amazon is an incredible company. They have achieved things nobody ever thought possible. But they had now employ hundreds of thousands, millions of people across America, the second largest employer, the entry point for our middle and working class people.
Yeah.
If that is going to be the case, then there are simply economic realities that we have to balance their growth, titanic growth of Jeff Bezos and more, with the ability to have the American dream here. And the union is the key part of that story. I think it's one of the most important reasons why unionization and a rebalance of power towards the Amazon workforce is so important. If they're going to be so big, then we have to make sure the people who work for them are taken care of.
That's absolutely right. And part of their propaganda is to make you think of these jobs more like fast food or Walmart worker, versus putting them in the same category as the Bethlehem steel worker or the sort of industrial worker who would make $30, $40 or more dollars. So when they say, hey, all our people make $15 an hour, we're doing great, it's double the minimum wage.
Right.
Yeah, well, that is still much lower than the industry standard of where your workers should ultimately be paid. We should mention, we are filming this before we know the results of the Amazon union election. I don't know if we're going to get results before this airs over the weekend, but hopefully we got results, future person watching this, and hopefully there was good news. Leave it at that.
We'll see. All right.
That does it for us. We'll be back later today with the week that was in Media Screw-Ups.
That's right. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of our videos. Don't forget to like and share as well. And we will see you all tomorrow.
Have a good one, guys.